Okay, hi everyone. This is your favorite friend Jay or Jaylan Salah, as you formerly know her, film critic at Geek Vibes Nation and In Session Film. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing director Michael John Warren of Freediver, Paramount Pictures' upcoming documentary about Alexey Molchanov, the world's greatest living freediver, which will be available on digital on December 7th. Michael, so happy to talk to you today.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for talking about my film with me.
Okay, so what I want to know is what is the meaning of life after making Freediver, Michael?
Wow, you no warm-up question, huh? You want to go right there. Um, I think the meaning of life for me is to enjoy it. And there's actually a saying in freediving. They don't say good luck, they don't say break a leg, all those things that people say as you walk in a big moment. They say to each other, enjoy it, because they know that every dive could be your last. Maybe that's not exactly why they say it, but that's what they say. And so my meaning of life is to enjoy it. It's a lot harder to enjoy your life than it sounds, right? It's not like you're just going to sit around and eat cake and watch, bad TV and that's going to actually give you a happy life. To have a happy life requires a lot of different things. You have to do a lot of things you don't want to do to have a good life. But I believe the meaning of life is to enjoy it.
So, how did the idea for the documentary come to you?
It was an article in GQ, and some friends of mine at Boardwalk Pictures over in Santa Monica, Los Angeles, uh, called me up and they said, "Hey, read this article. Do you want to make a film out of this? Because if you do, we do." And I read the article. I was like, "This sounds really hard. I don't know how we're going to film this." And I was all, but I was also like, "This is a crazy story, and the sport's crazy. Alexei's story is almost unbelievable. His mother's story is unbelievable." And I was looking for a challenge. I'm at a stage in my career where I'm looking for challenges, frankly. But not just, to satisfy my own ego, because that's what the challenge bit is about, but it's also just an incredible story. And I am a storyteller first and foremost. And I felt like this was a great opportunity to be challenged as a filmmaker, but also tell a story that perhaps means something for people as well. And it's not just about freediving, in my opinion.
It's not. I think there is a lot of meaning behind the documentary, but what I want to ask you is you started it with these excruciating breathing exercises for Alexei. And I gotta tell you, I had to take a breath. Like I had to take a step back and start breathing myself because it felt so difficult. Why did you start with a bang? Like getting us not into the freediving itself, but the process behind it.
I hadn't heard that scene described that way yet. Well, look, first of all, storytelling, you want to start strong, right? This is part of the craft of storytelling. You don't want to, you don't want to lose the audience before you even get started. Um, but I thought it was a bizarre scene. Are you referring to the one where he's putting his head in the tank there? That one? Yeah.
That
No, I
one.
was like, this is such a bizarre scene. As I was shooting it, I was like, this could be the open for the film because this is so strange what is happening here. And then what's funny is it just gets even crazier like after that. Is this film starts in a very strange and like sort of stressful place and then just gets even crazier after that. I started there because it seemed like an exciting place to start. I thought the woman who's in that scene, who's known Alexei for almost his whole life, had a really great perspective on him. She really sets the table for who he is and who he might become in a way that just felt right to open the film with. But also, I wanted you to see how intense the breathing elements of this sport is as well.
So I also realized that in the film you talk to all the like we have the main subject Alexei, but you also have everyone surrounding him. So it felt like you are showing us the process and the people behind the legend, behind the person with the legacy. I want to know, did you always have the conscious decision that yes, we will be also focusing on, like you mentioned, this woman who was giving him the breathing exercises, who probably knew him all in his life, people who knew the limitations of his body, how to push him or to take care of him. Did you always know how to contain all of this different energies in the documentary?
Yeah, so whenever I'm getting out there in the world and trying to portray, I kind of consider these portraits of people sometimes. This film is a portrait of Alexei, but it's also a portrait of a weird subculture of sport as well. I'm always looking at everything. I imagine myself in a supermarket. I'm a chef, right? I'm going to cook a meal, but I don't know what the meal necessarily is. So I go in the supermarket and I grab everything I can grab, and then I go to the kitchen. I'm like, oh, I didn't need that. Oh, I do need this. And so then you start sort of cooking the meal. So part of my job as a documentarian is how much can I get out of every shoot day? How much can I get out of every moment, every resource I have available to me? One, two, I've been doing this for a minute. I know that his family members are going to explain his life in a way that he can't do it himself. He doesn't have perspective on himself in a way that his aunt does or his wife does or all that. So when you're trying to bring a character, to the foreground in a story, they can't do it themselves. You have to get other people in there to help give that perspective and say the things that this person is unwilling to say or doesn't even know is true about them.
Definitely. There were also great shots of his body, as an athlete and kind of like this train he puts in himself. Gorgeous shots. They could be like in this amazing like sports magazine. So I want to know when you're shooting an athlete and you're just, this is the subject, this is the object of your attention. This is probably the muse of the film. Do you know how you're going to shoot them? How do you put in mind like I'm going to take this spectacular shot of him doing, like push-ups and stuff like that? How do you like envision it?
I wish I had like an answer where I told you like I mastermind every shot, but this is a documentary. You can't mastermind every shot because you're going to kill the moment. My biggest thing is capturing. I'm not trying to force things. I'm trying to capture without stepping on them, right? That's how I make documentaries anyway. I realize there's a lot of like really set up documentaries. I don't do that. What I want to do is build a really talented team who really knows what they're doing and can work fast and sort of dance with a subject in real time without waiting on us. So a lot of the things you're talking about above water, they're happening and we're just really good at our jobs. Shout out to my director of photography, Jeffrey Peterman, who should win the Academy Award for Photography Academy. If you're listening, he should
Yes.
win.
Yeah.
Um, but he's just really good at his job and he knows what he's doing. And so we're talking live as it's happening, but none of those weightlifting shots none of that's set up. That's just happening. And we're jumping in, knowing where the sun is, being like, okay, from here. And we're just kind of working live as we're doing it. The underwater stuff is a completely different conversation. There's nothing, I'm not sure there's anything harder to film than a single individual 512 feet under the surface of the water. And I didn't want to film it on GoPros, which is that's not a cinema camera. That's not an experience. That's just a GoPro. I wanted to film this on real cameras so you really could feel the environment. So we just built a team who could handle all that. We took different technologies that existed and combined them in a way that they had never been combined before. We had a brilliant scuba team with us. We had a like an underwater drone robotics team with us. We have to take Alexei's safety in mind as we're doing it. And so it was on a technical level about as hard as it gets. But at the same time, a lot of it is us sort of not getting in the way and not having a plan because we don't know what's going to happen and being flexible and good enough to make those shots you're talking about. We just make them live. They just start happening and we just do it.
Okay, so my last question for you, this is fascinating. There are difficult scenes that probably for me would be like a dialogue scene or something, but for you, it could have been an excruciating task. Like, oh, it took a long time. So I don't know, a difficult scene that you shot that isn't the underwater scenes or the things that to me seem difficult, but probably it was boring for you. It took a lot of prep, a lot of time.
Well, the most prep was definitely the underwater stuff. And
Okay.
you want to know what a difficult scene to film was that wasn't underwater? Is that
Tell
what
me.
you're asking me?
Yes, yes.
Let me think about that one. That's a tough one. Well, first of all, I'll say that like I'm really proud of the way his interviews look in this film. And interviews, they look natural, but there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into lighting these spaces. And so there's a lot of work that goes into these interview looks. And I'm really, really proud of that. Difficult scenes that aren't above water. I don't know. Like I'll say that the grind of a production is in itself is difficult. We are not going back to our trailers with catering people coming up and giving us smoothies. We don't ever cut. We just keep filming. Like it's just go, 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 go. Shout out to my inexhaustible team, although they might tell me they are exhaustible. Um, I mean, I just have this really, really great team who will run with me. And a lot of times we're doing something and it changes, and then we end up switching and we're going into something we didn't even know we were going to do. Um, so I'm not sure. I mean, it was all hard, I guess is really my question. None of this is easy. A lot of it was really, really challenging. And then the fact that it just keeps going is also another challenge. But again, I have an incredible group of people behind me, not just on my crew, but in my producing partners, and they really believed in me and really gave me the opportunity to make a film that I'm extremely proud of. And I'll just tell the folks who are listening that the film, I believe, is a family film. It's an intense film. It's a sports thriller documentary, which is maybe a genre of film. I don't know. It is now. But it's got a PG rating. There are definitely some pretty intense, edge of your seat moments in this film. For you, Jaylan, it was also like the very beginning of the film, and then I tell you, it gets a lot more intense from there. So maybe watch the first 5 minutes. But um, I think the film is about more than just these intense scenes as well. I think it's a conversation about this young man who's like really close with his mother and his relationship with her, and how she's this towering figure of the sport that he's also a towering figure of, and how do you honor her legacy but also try to be better than her, and at the same time he's trying to make the most out of his own life and his own legacy, which requires him leaving his son at home. And when he leaves his son at home, he's putting his life on the line to do this incredibly dangerous sport. And so you asked me, what's the meaning of life? Like that's part of what Alexei's trying to figure out here is like, is the meaning of life more world records, or is it being around for my son when he's 10? And that's part of what the film is dealing with as well, is like the decisions we make as people and how it affects the people who love us.
A great film, a great conversation. Thank you so much, Michael. Can't wait for everyone to watch this intense ride. Thank you. It was an honor talking to you. Seriously.
It was an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much.